Oh, I have that, yeah. That's the. Once you get that right hand to the. Chief.
All right, you ready?
6:04.
Slam your gavel, Amy.
All right, call this meeting to order at 6:04 PM. All right, public comment. Hi, Connie. Got anything for us?
A lot of questions, but, so we ordered, when we have a forum. So public, yeah, I thought one of the good to. So, you know, the spreadsheet for. One of the ones that. We, spreadsheet that you have. Not what's been made.
What?
Spirit. It's like.
Well, I believe our minutes are all posted.
Yeah, there's nothing to change.
Well, we discussed at our last meeting that until the voters decide what they want to do, based on the research that we've done, there's really no point in having a public forum. Because our task is to present a report, which is what we're doing for town meeting.
So you're actually going to take a physical report. You can only expect people to read it, respond and vote.
We're going to present our findings at town meeting. Because that's what we were tasked to do.
What you said you were going to do, to be passed, was to keep the public involved, informed, they're going to do all this research, and they want to know, they're going to do all this communication, that whole sort of thing. I'm certainly surprised if we think that meeting is going to be 3 hours of a report discussion.
I don't think it's not gonna take 3 hours. And again, when we went back and kind of did a deep dive on the warrant article that we presented. With the understanding when, we looked it over again, we said, well, really what we're doing is presenting the report. Until the public decides based on what our findings are, there's not much to talk about. From what the options are going to be, because it's up to the voters to decide what the options are gonna be.
So, when you present a report, usually people have questions.
Mm-hmm.
So, which gets involved, I mean, time consuming, I'm just confused, I mean, how would you want to go, what you did to Tim? I mean, I guess that's clear, but you just don't want to make public what you're doing.
No, that's not it at all. It's not up to us to decide what the town is going to vote on.
We talked about this last week, the last meeting. In the last meeting, we would well, I can't talk.
Minutes are available and is noted in the minutes. The minutes were presented to the town, they have them in draft form, and it specifically said we weren't going to present, the whole forum conversation was in there, verbatim. It was there. Yes, that when we were gonna present them, why we made the decision we did. There was more conversation in the minutes than that.
Okay, well, that, I just.
If I may, in post town meeting, we would ask for a forum. with the select board to talk about, you know, how the town wants to proceed in terms of voting on an option, your option, our option, anybody's option. No, that doesn't work for you?
Say it again.
We're not putting forth any kind of agenda. We did what we were tasked to do, or we're nearing the end of what we were tasked to do, which is study and research. It's not up to us to tell the town what it needs to do. That's up to the town.
Not asking. There was one of the questions about your research. I mean, what I think the research is a 2-hour conversation with, you know. And, observe. And I follow it pretty closely. I haven't seen a lot of studies that I heard were going to happen, a lot of this and a lot of that. Certainly, no pricing.
Well, we're about to get into that.
Just kind of.
That will all be part of the report that we present. We will present several different options and the pricing associated with them based on that day's price.
Oh, that's probably.
Yep. Yep, but there's really no point in having a public forum until the public is able to take in all the options and then decide what they want to do.
So usually, I mean, I know this group is not. It really involved a lot of committees and executive groups. But usually, when we have, it is discussed even at the budget meeting ahead of time. There's usually a forum to discuss and usually some sort of way that they familiar with what they're doing. And or we do whatever. I mean, but just take the invest.
That's what we said we were going to do, is present a report. Okay.
And I would, the last meeting minutes, section 4 covers the forum pretty in depth as to what we were going to do and what we weren't going to do. Section 4. Section 5 mentioned that Bruce didn't want to put the pricing. The meeting minutes that you said don't have anything on them. So section 4 has a full discussion, and section 5, Bruce mentioned he didn't want to put the pricing out yet because it's not firm. If he puts one number and it gets changed, then people will fixate on the first number and not. So that's why there's no numbers up there right now. And that's in the meeting minutes that are in the town's possession.
So we can't respond.
We're not presenting a warrant article with any plan of action. That's not what we were asked to do. That's not what we're here for, Connie. We're not here to shove an agenda down anybody's throat. We're here to gather information and present it to the town because that's what we said we would do. Okay, so let's go over the minutes.
I did get a few notices. I did correct the attendee list. I added Bruce and myself, and I spelled Clay's name correctly.
Okay.
That's all I was brought to my attention.
I know I think there and
Sorry.
that's part of it. I'm sure.
All right, so any notes on the meeting minutes? Any changes?
And I did send all the plans.
Okay, so,
Yep.
discuss dot.
What was that, Dan?
This 2,000 per Allen's follow-up. Budgeted maintenance, 2,000.
Yeah,
I don't remember that being part of the conversation. Also, I remember talking about budgeted maintenance, but the number one, option 1 out of the 4 options was as is, including maintenance, but I don't remember the 2,000. So that's all.
2,000, as I recall, was the amount that's in the budget for maintenance.
Okay, all right.
I was asked to go find that.
Okay, all right. So that was an
So I
update
did-
after the meeting.
Exactly,
All right,
I
okay.
reported to
Okay.
to,
That's all.
Heidi.
That doesn't go right.
No.
That just stood out to me, because I'm like, I don't remember it just.
Yeah,
So, yeah, that's-
the 2000, because I was shocked that it was so cheap. Anything for 2000.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna actually ask a question on it, as to. When we say you're going to do follow-up, is it okay for me to put it in the meeting minutes, or do you guys want me to wait till the next meeting to fill in that information? I guess I didn't really know how that was typically handled. So that's why it was in there, because it was a task for you to do in bold, and you
Right.
did it.
Generally speaking,
then-
it becomes new business.
Okay, all right,
Just as a protocol.
okay,
But I sent it to everybody and just to let them know so that we could add it.
okay. All right, I will make sure I do that.
I guess it's.
Okay. So leave it in there or just move it over to these meeting minutes?
I would just put this as new biz.
Okay,
As we- We could, you know. Review and approve it, and we could have a second, different article in there saying, review the minutes and then, the next line on update minutes or new business related to the minutes. Because a lot of times there's questions that people going out to find information coming back for them. I'm just talking about the possible agenda change. So the coordination between reading minutes and the information that comes back to them.
okay, I'll, typically what I've been doing previously, if we did, as I've just put it as a subheading, so I'll just do that. Okay.
Right, any other notes on the minutes?
That came after that.
Yeah, I just went to the budget,
Right,
town budget.
so we should probably amend the minutes then to like.
All right, so I'll just say it loud and clear on the microphone, so it's
Yeah.
recorded and everybody can hear, because I'm sure
Yeah,
Connie couldn't hear that, but basically what we're talking about is that we did a little homework and found out that the highway garage department actually has a $2,000 maintenance line item in their budget. And so now, we know that that there is a budget for the highway garage for maintenance, paint or whatever.
And I have removed it from the $2,000 note from those minutes.
I just didn't remember it being brought up, that's why I mentioned it. That, when I read the minutes, I was like, oh, wait, I don't remember that number.
Great. So we got meeting minutes taken care of?
So we gotta
I
vote on-
motion to accept the meeting minutes as amended.
I'll second.
What?
I was gonna say.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Gotta get out of my 2-year-olds. Okay, so, we talked about whether or not we need a warrant article to continue the committee. And it seems that, as it turns out, we serve at the discretion of the select board. So we're an advisory committee. So we technically speaking don't need a warrant article to continue, because unless the select board dissolves us, we can carry on.
Okay. And to Connie's point, if we were gonna put a warrant article in to continue the highway, then we probably should have a forum. Because it'd be a warrant article. Right. But if we're not, then yeah, we don't need a forum, but we would want to probably have some sort of a public meeting to let the public know prior to the town meeting that we were gonna have an article to continue, but you're right, I don't think we need to, because it's under the purview of the selectmen, it's their prerogative whether they dissolve a committee or a board that's been appointed.
But the next step for anybody would be to do some research, which is gonna cost money. So the next step, no matter what,
Mhm.
is gonna require some money. Should we put a warrant article out there to say, the highway department, what do we do with it committee? Need some money to do research. Because no matter, whether stay, move, go somewhere else, what the best options are if we do stay. We've pretty much pushed as far as we can for free.
Right, and we discussed that at the last meeting, so I thought we had decided that if somebody was to go get do a petition warrant article and get the 25 signatures to have the Highway Guard Study Committee have X amount of funds, 5,000, 10,000, 15, whatever it was, that wouldn't be done by us as a committee, that would be done as just
The
a
petition.
private citizen doing a petition warrant article. Yeah, well, I don't think we don't feel like it's that we should be doing that.
Well,
Somebody else should be telling us that they want to do that. I don't think as a board, that would be the right thing for us to, I don't think it would be the right thing.
I don't think it would be inappropriate for us to put forth a warrant article to continue
And ourselves?
moving forward with what we've been doing, because we do need to get some additional information that, like you said, we've done all we can for, on Russ's good graces.
Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. So I can't see that we're gonna need a ton of money, but,
So Amy, just to clarify, you're talking about not just having a warrant article to continue the committee, but to have a warrant article with some money attached to it.
I think that.
Yeah, because having talked to NHMA, they made it very clear that when the town creates committees, they're just advisory committees to the Board of Selectmen. They have no legal standing. Unlike, for instance, the Budget Advisory Committee is a legal body. The officers are elected.
Yep.
These advisory committees are, and the board just appoints them. And if we have a warrant article that says, hey, we want to continue, the board can dissolve it the next day. So they can dissolve whenever they want to. And even if we put money on a warrant article, we have no authority the board nor the town is mandated to give us that money. Everything is up to the select board. It's really fascinating. It's the governing body. They have absolute control of that. And they could say, sorry, we're not going to give you, even if the town votes for it, they can say, we're not going to give it to you because we don't think it's an appropriate action. So I just wanted to have that context here. If it is appropriate for us to have a warrant article with some money attached to it, then that's just something we can go for.
But conversely, they can't give us a dime unless it's approved in the warrant. Is that correct? Because we talked about that earlier on.
Yeah, the idea, they can give us money from other sources if they wanted to, but as a general rule, for instance, when back in 2020, when the town created the Temple Research Land Use Committee, they asked for $3,000 for their committee to do work related to their committee's work. And that's something we could do also. But they could have given, but the next year there was another warrant article for the $45,000 to continue that, actually specified the relocation study. And they used money from that, about $10,000. Even though that warrant article didn't specify the Temple Land Use Research Committee, the board said, okay, we can give you some of that money for that research committee. So the board has an incredible amount of discretion to give us money, but it would certainly, as the municipal association told me, politically, if we asked for $3,000 for a warrant article, even though they have complete control of it, for them not to give us that money would be very politically not very savvy. In other words, the town, if they vote to approve that warrant article, there's a certain political issue that needs to be resolved if they don't do it. So, yeah, I mean, that's just some background information.
So is your suggestion or is your interpretation of that, Peter, that we do not ask for any money, that we don't put forth a warrant article asking for?
I wouldn't make that decision here. I think our committee can make that decision, or independent members of the town can say, we'd like the committee to have some money, and they can do like Bruce said. I do want to say one other thing also, that you don't have to have 25 people sign warrant article. It's the law is fascinating. It's actually 2% of the registered voters, or 25, whichever is less. And my understanding is from looking at the documents, there are only 1,036 registered voters in Temple. So that actually comes to 21.7. So it'd be 22 votes. I just want the rules to be clear here, just in case. What's that? Well, I'm getting the clerk to verify that, but from the documents from the last election, there's a line item that says there are 1,036 registered voters, but I just want to verify that as of June 31st, if that's the case. But anyway, I'm just letting you know everyone says it's always 25, but it turns out that it's not 25, it's 2%, whichever is less. In case any members community members, registered voters want to put together a petition, they can do so with, if it's verified, that's the number of registered voters of 22. Anyway.
So what would the committee like to do? Would you like to present a warrant article or?
So I think I have a bigger question. The warrant article created us to research options here. And the output of that is a report that says, here are the reasonable options and about what they're gonna cost.
Mhm.
What's the next committee supposed to do? What is their output? What is their end result? And I think we need to define that before we figure out the next step. And, you know, my feeling is that it ought to be, okay, there's the move options, there's the stay options. Here's what we think the town should do. All we're doing is here's what you can do. Which is
Well, and that's-
That's what Connie was asking for, the forum to review the options and come up with a plan from that. And then a committee to HAMPSHIRE whatever the decision is. And then
Right,
we'll
but that's
get
the
money
means
for
to the
that.
end, but, you know, if town meeting this year is, here's your report. Then town meeting next year would probably be, here's what we think you should do, and all the forums and all the research and everything go into getting it.
So that's a justification for why you want to extend this group, right? Or a group similar to.
Yes.
So.
Or a more detailed.
Well, and then I think
Well,
after
take
we
options to a recommendation.
after we presented our report is when we would start having forums so that we could gather people's ideas and thoughts on what we presented in our report.
Yeah, I mean,
And that's
yeah.
when you want input from the public to say, you know, how did you reach this conclusion? And, you know, that's when we would kind of do a deep dive, but you know, I think we need to stay true to our warrant article, which is to present our report.
Well, and that's,
And then-
our charter was present a report, March 2024.
Right.
Done.
Done.
Right? We're extrapolating that the logical next step, the
Mhm.
common sense next step is, okay, we have this data. Let's turn it into information, forums, more information, more
Right.
research, et cetera, and turn that into a recommendation. But that's beyond the charter of this group.
Correct.
So does this select board evolve that? I mean, how does that change? Because right now, that's not our charter.
Correct.
So how does that change?
Well, there are a couple of issues here. One is the idea that we've got some options we're presenting. And so how do you resolve those options? You do it in future studies and recommendations to the town. And on top of that, the Supreme Court in New Hampshire has made it very clear that committees, warrant articles that establish committees or functions have a broad expanse of what, as long as the subject matter doesn't change, we're saying study the highway garage location, current location. As long as that basic fundamental subject doesn't change, you can do all sorts of different things within the purview of that particular. It's really fascinating. So I don't think that's really a key issue, that if we continue in the current status we're in as a committee and the board doesn't dissolve us, we can continue to present, and that could be a good discussion we'd have at the town meeting, which I think would be extremely viable. I think the only issue before us here is, do we ask for money? I think we all agree we're not going to say dissolve the committee. We're probably going to say continue the committee, and we can just do that at the town meeting.
But is the next step, and this is what I'm really hung up on, is the next step, which one of those four options do we pick?
No.
Or is the
People
next,
just wanted to know the facts of what was up there, because they were
That-
told it was horrible.
Yeah.
And it had to be done. There were no numbers to associate with it, so our job was to present the information. So that they could then say, do we want to move it to other lanes?
Yeah, but-
well, that's March of 2024,
Correct.
Correct.
right? But
He's
this
talking about
discussion
afterwards.
here
What we
was
frame.
for March of 2025.
Hmm.
Extend this committee to focus on which one of the four options for this space do we pick? That's a preconceived decision that may not be right. Because these appear to be viable options, but they may not be the best option.
And that's,
Well,
and that's
yeah.
what we would discern at a
If
forum.
they're not the best
Right.
options, that's another reason to continue reviewing them.
But you have to compare it against other options that are not.
Yeah, that wouldn't be our. Because we're just concentrating on the current location.
Well, and
We wouldn't
that's-
be involved with moving and all that kind of stuff, though we could be.
Well, I think at some point, somebody has to say, okay, there was a option to, build the gold-plated highway garage down on Scudainy. And there's options ranging from doing nothing to not insignificant improvements here. What is the best overall answer? Because what I've picked up pretty much unequivocally here is that moving the highway garage is not in the best interest of the highway garage. But it might be in the best interest of Temple, and that we don't know.
And,
Because it
and,
depends
and
on-
it's not up to us to make that decision, and it's up to the town to decide what they want to do based on the options presented. We're gonna give them what we have come up with for options. They have some information about moving it, but there's no detailed cost
Okay, so we're
associated
going on
with
the
that.
assumption that somebody else is gonna present a moving option.
If they want to move it, they have to present.
Okay,
Right,
Well, I think that's been important, at least for me as a resident of the town, because I attended the forums that were there before, was that it was all very vague. My thing, and what I think we're going to do when you get the cost benefits, you're gonna show what it could cost to stay here, and there's numbers, okay, it's gonna be $100,000, it's gonna be $500,000, where we were never given $2 million,
Bless you.
$5 million. There's a warrant, there's a grant you can get or not. I wanna be able to make a decision, and I think we're giving that information to people, so when they get the other piece of information on actual dollars, then they can decide what they want.
okay, so then my earlier statement is true, that we're assuming that another
There
group
has to be more.
is gonna present option B.
Right, with-
Okay,
solid.
I'm okay with that as long as it's clearly defined. I don't do nebulous.
Yeah, I think that
Notice.
it will be, in our report at town meeting will be also a request from our chair of the board, or, from the board, requesting that the selectmen continue our group into next year, for the purpose of actually getting town feedback, having the forum, finally having the forums based on the feedback, on the presentation,
the
presentation of
Yep.
our 4 options we're gonna give, and the 5th option being moving.
Right.
Right, and we're gonna give 4
Yes.
options, do
Yep.
nothing, and then 3 options, and then the move. So, I just think that's just as long as we have that in there, our in our report, that we would like to maintain
As a
our,
request.
as a request, to the selectmen keep us as a board, then we don't need to do a warrant article.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the money thing, I don't know what to do about the money, but,
What do we think the money, what's the next step it would require? Well, we don't know, just like we didn't necessarily know we were gonna do a survey from June 22nd either. You just don't know what's gonna pop up.
I mean, I don't know, I don't know how much money we really, if we probably want to do mailers. Who's gonna pay for all the mailers? We're doing a thing for the town, but I mean, milk's not cheap. Who's gonna pay?
That would
Here's another good point also, the CAC committees. Deeply involved in a grant with Southwest Regional Planning. And they're doing a highway study,
That's the traffic study,
the traffic study of right through here.
right?
So that's another, and that's not gonna be done till March, April, May. That's another good discussion at the town meeting. Hey, we haven't even got all the data. We've got some of the data. There was great concern about traffic coming through here and the amount of traffic and all that. That can't be resolved until sometime in the summer. Actually, I think it's summer, they said they were gonna find a little report. So that would be good to add to our studies also. That's a good, really good argument that the committee should continue so that we absorb that information too and make a logical presentation. And you're right, that's all, we pay a fee to SWRPC and that's it. They don't pay more money for them. So it wouldn't cost us a penny to get that, to be able to get the report. It's accounted for. Yeah.
So what would we need money for besides just information, postage?
Well, and that's
Mailers.
really it. And that's what we talked about at the last meeting is, you know, if we do hold forums, we've got to, you know, like you said, do mailers and provide some water and, you know, cookies or whatever for.
We need a couple grand.
I would.
Yeah.
I-
We don't-
I-
not a lot.
I've heard that forms are something like $1,000 each by the time you.
Really?
Do all the mailers and food and I mean, it may be 800 or something like that. You know, I've heard numbers like $500 to send out.
The last mailing for the whole town was 400 and something.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
We're just spending 10K.
So what is on our county? What'd you spend the 10K?
Don't involve.
The steering committee.
Don't what?
Yeah.
She's,
Well, we can figure out what it costs to do
Yeah.
mailers, because if we are gonna do a forum or two, which we should,
yeah,
Um,
as a matter of fact.
we're gonna have to mail, you know, inform people to get them here, so we don't have just 20 people sitting.
Postcards are gonna be a buck piece to buy or even mail.
Who's the gal in town that does all the mailing stuff for us and does all the
Rose Lowry.
Rose Lowry's?
Yeah.
We had a big meeting for about the school here, CAC post had last Thursday. Really fascinating meeting, and we're planning on going and getting they want to ask the budget, the BOS of the ARPA funds. Can use a sponsor mailing to all the towns in the SAU to say, don't close the temples, don't close the forts. So anyway, she knows what the money is.
We did the
And, you know,
postcards
we can
for
even
them.
ask, call up the printing,
For this committee.
printing
Yeah.
shop. That we use, I can't remember. So that's not gonna be the but I like the idea of a couple $1,000.
We already
And
have
I'm
that
gonna
information from the steering committee because they've been doing forums all summer.
Yeah.
And mailers and everything.
Which steering committee is that? Oh.
The housing steering.
The-
Let's-
yeah,
so let's,
the Planning board, yeah.
Pam Kingston is the chairman of that.
So don't think it actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at the cost for
Well, they're
all these mail.
$2,500, I think would be a reasonable, and that could be easily.
So, but does that mean we need a warrant article for $2,500?
Yes, yeah, but again, it's just, it's fascinating. It's a political statement. It's not a mandate to the Board of Selectmen. Because when they create a committee, it's not a legal committee in the state of New Hampshire, it's an advisory committee. Just like CAC is,
Yep.
but the Budget Advisory Committee is a legal committee, like the Planning Board's a legal committee. The members are elected and they have statutory status, but ours doesn't.
Not,
So-
nor does the
so-
GLURC.
how-
They have the
how-
same status as us.
No, the budget, no, they couldn't give out money. They don't, only the select board can, but as their governing body. But it's politically advantageous. The town votes for it, and it's, 125 and 80 against 120, whatever it is. That puts pressure on the select board, even though they're not compelled to give us the money, and they can dissolve the committee at any time. It's big, but it's a political issue. Yes, it's fascinating. They didn't realize that.
Could I went to the, zoomed in on the forums. We never actually got any real numbers in any of those forums, did we?
No,
Which
they
form?
said that they're getting all these grants and not to
Right.
worry. because it was
Wasn't
like-
gonna cost
it was
us
gonna
anything.
happen once they started.
I just want to make sure I didn't miss that. You heard.
No, that was-
No,
What they said.
the only-
Their whole argument was that they had to make it shovel ready. They were gonna spend $100,000 to build a road and a bridge and dynamite, and then they were shovel ready.
Go for grant. David, is this for me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question about the committees. And this kind of follows up with what Clay was saying, because I was thinking the same thing. And I was thinking about the Temple Land Use Committee, how they changed, they morphed into a different committee. They ended up being something that they weren't. So my question here is, our job is to present a report to the folks at town meeting. On that report, we're gonna have our suggestions or options that we've come up for changes to it. And some preliminary numbers that go along with it. But so say the town is wants to look into this further, say the town sides with us to the renovation of the highway garage.
Or more
It's-
information.
Or more
Or wants more information. It seems pertinent to me that we would actually formulate a new committee at that point. Because we wouldn't be, well, we'd still be studying, but this would be the highway garage renovation committee, because we'd be renovating the existing.
I get your point, but here's the difference. The Tampa Research Land Use Committee was created to just study,
Mhm,
but they became a construction company.
mhm.
And and we had this select board talk to attorneys and DRA, and they said it's illegal.
Mhm,
In other words, what they were gonna do out of that committee was illegal.
mhm.
All they could do was study. So they were actually morphing into a construction company, actually.
Okay,
So it was a big difference.
so would you be concerned if we?
We're not gonna build a building. We're
Mhm.
not say, hey, will you give us authority to hire somebody to,
But it was, if,
but we might want architectural drawings, for
Right.
instance. I mean, so there's, there's options there.
so this new committee, if we formulate a new committee via warrant article at town meeting, would then be, that is the committee that holds the forum. That is the committee that is bringing further detailed information on this, preparing itself for a vote on March 2025.
I wouldn't be opposed to
Yeah, that,
having a warrant saying, the committee plans on doing some more research. Yeah, I mean, we don't need to, but I mean, it really is.
And I think that's also where we ask for those monies. It makes it easier to ask for those monies too, because we're taking it the next step. They,
I think,
Right.
I think the point is that we're not going to do what has been done before, which is overstep.
Mhm.
We have a specific task, we're completing our specific task. And then the next, whether it's our group of people that remains, which we don't need a warrant article saying that we need to continue the committee, because the committee serves at the discretion of the select board. So the select board can say the day after town meeting, no, you're all done.
Mhm.
Probably wouldn't be a good idea if they did that. Do we need to change the description of the committee? Maybe that's the thing that needs to be clarified, because basically, once we've presented our report, we're done. Our committee's work is done.
Correct.
It's mind-boggling that they're not picking up that, the older stuff as well, not everybody upset.
Well, and that's the thing that I think is very important. And I think Jim has been really good about kind of keeping us on that task, because those of us who were engaged in this way back when, we all had some very specific ideas. But it's important that we don't overstep. It's not our agenda. It's up to the town to decide. We go, we bring our report, we give them the information. Then we invite their comments, then we invite their questions and say, this is where we got this information. These are what our options are. This is what they're gonna cost. What would you like us to do next? That's up to the town.
Well, I don't think we asked them. I think we're either gonna have a warrant. We're either gonna have a warrant saying, this is what we propose that you enable us to do.
Mhm.
But Bruce's point was that just when we present the report, just say, don't dissolve us. We've still got more work to do. We're still waiting for the SWRPC to do their traffic studies. We don't have good architectural drawing. I mean,
We don't need a warrant article, I don't think, to
yeah, I don't.
accomplish it.
But
Yeah,
if,
yeah,
but
because
if
the
we,
board-
but if we
yeah.
step into that arena, we're changing our role.
Exactly.
We're changing our.
I think what we need, the reason I think this went as well as it did is because we had a clearly defined deliverable for March of
Product,
twenty
yes.
twenty-four. I think we need to come up with a deliverable for March of twenty twenty-five, and it may be a recommendation of what to do with the current space,
Renovation.
including costs and, we can get as detailed as we want. Do we want architectural drawings? Do we want, and there will be forums and
Yeah.
I think we should lay all that out.
Choosing
so
one of the
people know
options.
what they're getting.
Choosing one of the
Exactly right.
four options.
And I just found out the postage to mail every house in Temple is $360.
Okay, and the cards, if they're 50 cents a piece. That's
Another
your
$500,
$1,000
yeah.
right there.
Yeah,
Of
800,000.
course, it's ludicrous.
Bruce, what do you think? Your idea was not to mess around with the warrant article. I mean, do you think? I don't personally see that's overstepping our bound to say we need more work to be done. We have other information we need to gather to be more precise to the town. This is the first step, the first stage of our report. Again, I just.
What's our deadline as far as a warrant, like presenting warrant?
It's gotta be
Fifth.
next
February
Tuesday.
fifth.
I tell everybody the
Okay.
fifth. There hasn't wait till the
Next
sixth.
Tuesday.
Fifth or sixth, it's one of those.
Is it
days.
our-
Yeah, well, 25 signatures is pretty easy to do. You can do that. We've proven that can happen.
Well, we don't need 25.
Just go home.
I see, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's
Okay.
get 25. But it's, a matter of drafting the warrant article. What is it? How's it going to read? What's it going to say? And then getting the 25 signatures takes half an hour.
Right.
And making sure that it's turned in.
Turned in by.
To the,
February
and
5th.
yeah, make sure there's, we know the hours of the selectman's office so that it'd be just our luck that the deadline day, they don't have hours.
No, Tuesday,
you're gonna-
they're there from 9 to 6 in the evening on
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yeah, so we want to be clear. about
Carol
the
is,
deadline day.
Carol is there on Monday, so, so.
So what, so what's the question is, do we put an article to continue the committee?
With a budget.
And then is there money involved in this?
And I think if we're going to do a warrant article to continue the committee, we need to expand.
Changes.
We need to expand what we're offering, because again, once we present our report, which is what we said we do, we've done our job, right? We're not. So if we're gonna do a warrant article and ask for money, then I think we also need to give ourselves a little bit more license to continue to move forward in a productive way.
Well, if you have a new committee for 2024, then your goal would probably be a warrant article to put out what you're gonna do with the garage for 2025, so you get money. Because you've done everything that Matt said. You know, you brought people together, talking about the options. You know, if somebody wants to say we want the move option, they can have the move option. You can go to a move option or stay, and then the stay, you know, we have like 4, and we give them the one that we believe is the best one, or that we've gotten feedback for all these forums, right? We looked at all the options, taken comments, right? They can vote on that, but it's gonna cost money. You're gonna have all the money available in terms of estimates. And then they have that 250K that's just sitting there as escrow that has to be released. That would be done for 2025, no?
So for making a warrant article and changing the purview of our, our group, when was the last time that was done? As far as updating the group's role and.
Well, I think just because it hasn't been done before, doesn't mean we shouldn't do it right.
Yeah, okay.
And
So with presenting a warrant article, we would update our role
yes,
as a group,
yes,
ask for money and ask to continue.
correct.
For the
Pretty
purpose of
simple.
For the
having
purpose of,
forums so the town can come and give us feedback. So that in the future year or years, we might come forward with a warrant article for option A, B, C, or D. or E.
But
Whatever,
legally-
Whatever, you know, we.
yeah,
but,
Plus-
you know,
So
it's-
legally, that can be done as long as a warrant article is submitted.
yes.
Legally, what can be done?
Updating the group's role.
Well, as I mentioned, when I talked to the municipal association, they said you don't need to because it's all within the same framework. If the subject matter is the same,
Right.
like you can't have a warrant article, police cruiser and say you want to buy a speedboat instead. But you can say the police cruiser could be this or that, a truck, or, you can change all the details. You just can't change this basic subject. There's unbelievable flexibility in that. So it doesn't, we could continue just as we are right now. And just as another point, I think we discussed at the last meeting, the Temple Research Land Use Committee. They can be dissolved anytime either, and they pretty much are finished. I mean, they haven't met for the last 6-7 months.
Which, do we
So
know
that-
if they plan on meeting?
We have no idea. And whether they're gonna have a warrant article or not, But anyway, besides the forum, I think it's a clear justification for continuing and asking for some money, but we've got more information we need to present to the town. And this, SWRPC is gonna be critical. The amount of traffic flowing, how they're gonna control the traffic. They wanna put lights, they wanna put speed bumps, they're discussing everything imaginable, crosswalks.
Right.
So I think that would be an important part of it.
Yeah, let me give you a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Let me give you a hypothetical because I've done a lot of forums with the planning board and I've gone to a lot of other forums that other groups have put together in Temple in my lifetime here. And I can tell you how it's gonna go, or how it might go. To get 35 to 50 people in this hall for a forum for anything is a good turnout. To get, it's very rare that we've ever had 70, 80 people in here. It's happened. The ag issue, years ago, the site plan for ag, that packed the house with 80+ people. And, but beyond that, it's hard to get 30, 40 people in here for any kind of a forum. So let's just say we do 3 forums. We do 3 forums next year. Or, this year.
Right.
Throughout the course of this year, we do 3 forums. And it's all about the current site, and it's all about the options and wanting to hear what people thought of our options. And getting their feedback, because that's what a forum's all about, right? And in the end of those 3 forums that 35, 40 people at best show up for, and a lot of them will be the repeat people, same people. Whatever they tell us, the majority of those people, now keep in mind, we have 1,500 people in town, 1,000 voters, but 35 people that come to these forums, unfortunately. So then we're gonna take from that based on the majority of the people, what they said. So let's just say that they all thought, what a great idea to tear down the block building and build a new 40 by 40 right here. And have a carriage shed for the,
Right.
our proposal 2 or whatever it is, yeah. So then what do? Is it up to us to put a warrant article in to go with that plan?
Yeah, we could.
Is it?
Any 25 people?
But I don't know, is it?
I'd say
The
this.
forum
I
is
think
not.
It could be
a
staged
fair-
over several years. It could be, hey, we're gonna take our time and take it easy on the taxpayers, and we're gonna do this.
In escrow.
Well, true, if that's,
What's 35K that's somewhere allocated for support for a group that doesn't exist?
so the money we already have that is allocated for a new location of a higher garage, if there's a way to change that, so that money could be used for the current, then that's a game changer. True.
Can I just mention, I had a conversation,
Yeah, go ahead.
I had a fascinating conversation about those 2 warrant articles. And here's the bottom line, because both those, the $45,000, which now only has 35, was for a study. It wasn't for Temple Land Use Research Committee, it was just for anybody that wanted to study the relocation of the highway department to Scladanian Halt, very specific. But it went into an expendable capital reserve, expendable trust fund. That's critical, as did the $250,000 that the town got by selling the property. They sell those pieces of property. That also went into a capital reserve expendable trust fund for relocation. Because it's a capital reserve trust fund, you have to have 2/3 of the members of the residents, registered voters present to alter or amend capital trust funds. However,
Present.
as present, yeah. So in other words, if there's 150 people there, let's just say 100 have to agree to amend a capital reserve trust fund. It's absolutely fascinating. However, a simple majority, we have 150, what is that, 75, 76, can rescind it. And when you rescind it, the money automatically goes back into the general fund. Can you imagine rescinding the $250,000 and just putting that back in the general fund? I mean, that would lower our tax rate. I mean, but anyway, I'm just saying those are the options you have. And so I think it'd be very difficult to amend those articles.
Okay, well, we had 70%.
I agree.
We had 70% special town meeting, and that
I agree.
feels like a miracle that we did that.
Right, but
So,
you'd have to plan that you have to file it as a warrant, you'd have to file it as a warrant article. That we want to amend, and then you'd have to see whether you can get. And you do that with the expectation you can get 2/3 of the members present to, yeah.
Like that, you turn the money in the general fund.
I mean, quite frankly, both those warrant articles have no point. The money's there, they can't be used. Because we rescinded Article 8, which was the one saying we want to move we want to move it. Remember, that's the one we rescinded. We did 2 line items in our warrant article, 2 warrant articles on June 22nd. The special meeting, one was rescinded. We rescinded that first one.
yeah,
That was going to use the 250K. So the 250K can't be used now unless another warrant article is entered.
so you're saying you can rescind a warrant article from 3 years ago?
Absolutely. You can rescind any capital reserve fund with a simple majority. Fascinating, and because it's town money, it goes right back into the general fund.
Well, I know how I feel is just John Doe citizen in regards to that, but as a member of this board, our task is to.
Right.
Our task is to do what you've stated, and that's report
Right.
back what we
And-
found, and
and
it's
so-
not tasked to rescind our articles or do that with the money, although
That could be
somebody
done,
else could do that.
that could be
Yes.
done the following year, once we did all these forums. Hey, guess what? We have $250,000 sitting in a capital reserve expendable trust fund that currently can't be used. Unless there's a warrant article presented at this meeting on the 16th of March.
Yeah,
So-
so I agree with you, that step shouldn't happen until forums happen and feedback, and then we make that part of the topic of conversation in the forums.
Mhm.
And then if
The only possibility that we might want to do this meeting coming up, and again, I'm not recommending, I'm just saying, that $35,000 sitting there for relocation, for studying the relocation, that, it's too bad that can't go back to the general fund, because then, we could have a warrant articles, rescinding it. And another article saying, hey, how about putting that $35,000 into a group study of the highway garages, period. No relocate, no, not specifying relocation, not specifying move, just studying the highway garage. And then the board could easily say, we're the agents. We'll give you $3,000 for forums or.
So,
Yeah.
so what if we, and, again, I'm not sure that's part of the purview of this committee, but would it make sense to kind of split the difference and present a warrant article asking for that 35,000 to be returned to the general fund, which would then potentially free up some funds for us at the select board's discretion? And we'll leave the 250 alone for now. And then maybe that happens next year. But if we ask to have that money put back in the general fund, then perhaps the next time we go to the select board and say, hey, we'd like to hold some forums, can we have $3,000? They'll say yes.
Yeah, they can't take we wouldn't ask the money to be put back in the general fund. We just rescind the warrant.
Rescind the
article.
warrant article.
That would put it back. The board can't just take money out of the general fund and give it to anybody. It's got to be a budget line item, or it's got to be a warrant article. In other words, they can't just say, oh, guess what? We rescinded and put $35,000. We can now, the board can't say, oh, now we can tap into that 35 and give it to anybody we want to. It has to be a warrant article that specifies a dollar amount. You see what I'm saying? The general fund is just a big bucket of money where all the town's money goes, right? You can't touch that money unless there's a specified line item in our town budget.
It has to be earmarked for.
It has to be earmarked with all the 500 line items in the town budget or warrant articles. Otherwise, they cannot, they have no authority to just say, oh, we want to take 5,000 out of the general fund.
That being said, though, they do take money from other departments.
They do.
The highway
They
department.
Absolutely.
And it happens a lot with the highway department. They borrow money from them
Absolutely.
to help out with other departments a lot. So they do have that
Absolutely.
authority, the selectmen do.
Well, that's
Oh, yeah.
what I'm a little confused then, Peter, because my understanding was that we serve at the pleasure of
Yeah,
the
but-
select board, as does the TLURC. So if that money has already been, or if that warrant article was rescinded, which removes that $250,000 from the pocket of the TLURC.
No, it was never in the pocket of the TLURC. It was in an expendable capital reserve trust fund. When you take the money out of the trust fund, it goes in the general fund, and nobody can just say, oh, guess what? We took 35,000. Can we now let's give it to the Recreation Commission. Now let's give it, you can't do that. It's got to, as Bruce said, all of towns operate very strictly. It's got to be appropriated in some fashion. Except we have the ARPA funds, which they can just dish out the way they like to, but they didn't want to give us.
But I think my statement earlier is following up on what you had said is accurate. If it's in a warrant article, they cannot give it to you if they choose, the select board cannot give it to you if they choose to. But they can't give you money unless it's in a warrant. article.
Okay, all right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Only because it's a political decision by the town.
Right.
And if we say we want $2,500 or 3,000 and they don't give us a penny, there's a price to pay for that.
Yeah, but
Political price.
they may not want to, but they can.
Yes.
But so they can appropriate it and not give it to you. But if they don't appropriate it, then you definitely can't get it.
Okay, so
So
do
we-
we as a committee want to present a warrant article to rescind the 35,000 of that expendable capital reserve fund And then do we also want to do a warrant article asking for $3,000?
I would suggest that we do 3 warrant articles in this order. Here's our new charter. Here's what we believe our new charter should be. Here's the definition of our new deliverable for March 2025, however you want to word it. Here's a warrant article to rescind the something or other trust fund.
The expendable trust fund.
And can this new committee, if it is approved, have $3,000?
That would be in the same warrant,
That would be in the first warrant article.
in the one that creates the new committee.
So then should we
Just
do,
say, hey, and we need $2,500 to fulfill our mission as with, as under.
so then if we're gonna ask for the 3,000, should we do the rescind the 35,000 first?
I would touch that.
I wouldn't touch that first. I think pick the committee and send them, and then, well, you know,
The money's not
and
going-
Bruce knows that every meeting you can rearrange all the warrant articles. You know,
Yeah.
they're in line, they're, you, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
The selectmen have the
Right.
unique ability to be able to categorize the articles the way they see fit.
Right.
And it's very strategic sometimes, so they, I don't know that we need to, change the name of the committee. It still would be the Highway Garage Study Committee,
Right.
just to keep things
Yeah.
simple. And I don't think that the members need to change. It could be add members, but I don't think the members, I guess what we're asking is to continue our group of people.
I'm with you.
People that haven't been showing up, want to drop off, and they want to appoint new ones, fine. But I think we keep the name the same, because really with what we're doing is still going to be studying the garage.
We need a new deliverable.
Right,
That's the big deliverable.
That's the big thing. We need to define a new deliverable.
Well, I mean, Bruce has been very articulate. I mean, forums, we've got more information coming in. We might need architectural drawings. I was gonna ask you, Russ, is there any other survey stuff we would possibly need other than what you've already done?
Think so.
Okay.
At this point, it's more site planning. You know, either have an engineer maybe do a quick look at turning radiuses or grading, something like that.
This is the kind of things you could put together for us, and we could also articulate in the presentation we make
I
on
can-
the 16th.
Pretty quick, get a proposal, at least do sort of a rudimentary study. Here's what some grading would be, you know, based on these. You know, the site
And what,
plan.
and is there, what would the cost associated with that be, Russ?
I'm gonna say engineering is a lot more expensive than surveying.
Okay.
Is that the reason that we need to ask for some funds then? Because when we go to the 2025 town meeting, after we've gathered information from the public about what they want to do we want to have a warrant article that could then be voted on at that town meeting? Because we now have complete information. I mean, if we had, you know.
We have to be careful,
Yeah.
because we're doing that, at that point, we're doing the same thing as what we're
Yeah.
grabbing
Yeah,
about
we
the
got
other
it.
guys did,
Yeah.
is we're getting engineering and getting construction.
But this
Well-
is.
well,
what I'm
they
talking about
actually-
After we've,
Yeah.
after we've.
After we've done our
met with-
forums
after
and all
we've
that
done our
stuff.
Forums and after we've gotten some public, and we can do a survey, I mean, we don't have to rely strictly on forums to get people's opinions. We can do.
I think a forum is accurate.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, the forum idea is good for us politically,
Yeah, right.
but I don't think it does anything.
But to see that.
The steering committee, we've had forums that
Right.
7 people show.
Right.
You know.
Forums, that's what I'm
telling you,
saying.
I get picked
there are
on
other
by
ways.
certain people in town about my comments about forums and who shows up. And the amount of people and who they are, but I'm spot on. I know exactly who all the players are. I know exactly who's gonna show up, what they're gonna say, and how many are gonna be here. I've lived here my whole life. I've witnessed it. I know it. I'm not making it up.
Especially,
It's a fact.
No, well, that's why we need to use other avenues too.
Especially when
not
you're-
Just depend on
yeah,
forums. We
especially
need
when
to
you're
find out-
sipping a old fashioned, right?
That's why the whole forum idea is really just political. It's giving people the feeling they have the opportunity. And you're taking some, I mean, if for some reason all of a sudden 400 people showed up, well, we'd be like, wow, and that would be a really good sample. But if it's the same 7,
you know what they're gonna say anyways, and that's not really any new information.
Right.
So that's not helping you study what you're looking for. That's just saying, okay.
So you'll still need money from them, decided to now.
Well,
Could you
yeah,
start-
I think you'd wanna
Sorry,
do,
but
yeah.
you don't have it.
But if you send something out that says, here are the four options. And the approximate cost of those four options, and we have to have some defined numbers before we go to forums. So here are your four options. This is and here's the impact on your taxes. Then you'll get people's.
Can't do it
attention.
precisely.
Hmm.
because you-
You can't do precisely
Any algorithm study.
until you have final rulings.
And,
Yeah.
and the town has voted on what they want to do.
Well, like luckily, what we're looking at and proposing, they're pretty simple rectangles and squares.
Yeah.
And
We don't need new
the
roads.
builders and the subcontractors I talked to, they're, it's pretty straightforward. They don't really need an architectural set of plans. If it ever happened, they would like one, yes, a set of plans to build off, but to get an estimate, it's not that complex and it's pretty simple to figure out the insulation and the sheetrock and the wiring and the roofing and, it's not rocket science.
I could probably say the same thing with the engineering. I could say, like, the engineering I work on, hey, look, here's four options we're looking at. Can you give me a range, a budget range of, from doing nothing, which is $0, to doing, the sand shed and the carriage garage and all this kind of stuff? How much, do you see any grading involved? What do you see this cost? At that point, we're not really doing engineering. We're just saying, hey. give me
Getting a ballpark.
Okay, hypothetical. We present the four options. We get dissolved. And that's that. The town says, no, you guys presented. And there's still that Temple Land Use Research Overarching Committee that is out there somewhere. And maybe some of us are on that committee in the future. Other groups could present, oh, here's what to do, here's what to do, it doesn't have to be the highway garage study group, here's our warrant article. It could be the land use research committee, or it could be the select board, we're putting forth a warrant article to move the highway department or to fix the highway department. It doesn't have, so hypothetical, this committee is disbanded. So let's not get ahead of ourselves.
So you,
I think I'm on this committee because as a town person, I want to know what all's involved. And I think, to your point, they dissolve us because we gave them some estimates. They're not going to change drastically because they're squares and rectangles. Going forward, I can now be like, yeah, I think we can stay there. And I feel like I'm educated. And if somebody else comes up with some wing-ding idea, I can say, no, I like the idea over there. But I didn't feel like I had the information. Now I will feel like I have the information and I can go forward. So I don't think they will decide.
Right, especially if we're asking to keep the year going with their little budget. Which I agree with, so if someone wants the motion that we have a warrant article, I might agree to that.
Are we agreeing that we're just doing the one more article and forget about the 35? I think it's a good idea to wait it on the 35. We can wait it for the following year. Because let the town make all these decisions based on our presentation, on the information we're going to give them during the year. And not get involved in all the other stuff. I mean, I think to keep it simple.
So,
I mean,
Still ask for money.
let me think of it. So we're gonna do our report. Jim, I'm assuming Jim's gonna give the report, with the options. And in the end of the report, he's gonna ask that the Highway Garage Study Committee continue its work into the next year. The selectmen allow us to do that. And we have a warrant article that we presented to acquire some funds to help us operate as that committee.
And we can even,
And
that warrant can even say to continue.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
That's simple.
just as a, yeah.
So not two warrant,
The
just
only-
one for the money and just a simple report. When we do the report, just ask the selectmen to let us continue with.
So you're saying the warrant article will just be asking money that the HGSG can use and not even mention continuing HGSG?
no, continuing.
Okay, so make that one article,
Well, I just want to make sure.
the money in the continue the Highway Garage Study.
Yeah,
Okay, sure.
I mean, the only fear with that is,
With the new, with the new.
the only fear with that is it's voted down.
Okay.
it might threaten our future. Whereas if we don't put it in there,
Okay.
then we're subject to the board.
So just one article, one warrant article, keep it simple, asking to continue as the Highway Garage Study Committee with a new deliverable and
3,000, 25.
X amount of money to
Provide mailing and
forums.
Should we decide on a dollar amount?
Let's decide on a dollar amount.
Do we address people in
Yeah.
that warrant? article?
Do we what?
Do we address people?
No.
No, okay.
Never
Be-
used it.
Because the people that haven't been showing up should drop off
Well, as long as
And-
we, as long as
and
we. have a
reapply
quorum.
if they want to.
That would-
For the
It's
simple,
up to-
reason
it's up
that it's getting harder, it's gonna be harder
Select
to
board's
get along.
decision.
Yeah, and I think it was the
appoint-
chair and the vice chair
Yeah.
could together say, you know what, once the new committee, if we are approved, the very first meeting will be, hey, we're gonna call the people that haven't been showing up
Mhm.
and ask them to
Do you want to drop?
either
off?
show up or would you please resign?
And that would
we
be
can
good
afford
too, because we wouldn't have to have an 8-man quorum. And that would be a little bit,
That's my point.
that'd be, and if we were down to 10,
Yeah.
you get 6 people, which makes it a little bit easier.
We've actually done.
I know.
Well, I think, you
16.
know, I think the other thing that,
Started with 16.
the other thing that kind of,
Six.
I was gonna say.
So are we
So-
drafting this warrant article tonight?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
We don't have to.
I was hoping you guys could.
I've actually got a model one. Just a
I
simple.
think we're not allowed to, yeah, we're not allowed to engage in conversation
Via email.
via email. Everything we do has to be in this public setting.
It won't work. You know, we're supposed to come up with a cost benefit analysis. I haven't seen figures, but that's, you know, sharing data between members for doing homework. It's gotta be allowed. It has to
Well,
be allowed.
that is, you
Otherwise-
just can't
otherwise
discuss
we
it.
sit here as a whole.
Right,
You can say, okay, you can put it up on the board, say benefit cost, in, you know, ballpark at X, Y, Z. But it's, you know, to actually do the analysis, put the spreadsheet together, you can't do that in a public arena. So, you know, go off in a working group and they have notes together.
Right.
And they present this and then we come and display it to you all, or whatever.
I need,
Well,
to be-
here-
I need to be able to email all my information to Jim or.
Right.
whoever.
But I mean, the bottom line is we as a group can't create the warrant article. 21 people have to, or 25.
Yeah.
So it's 25 people that are doing it.
Yeah.
So that's not done publicly. It's just this, it's just a citizen petition. So,
Correct.
so we're just agreeing that we're going to support the presentation of a warrant article, asking us to continue and with a dollar amount, and that'll be put together before next Tuesday by the citizens of Temple. I mean, that's,
But who's the citizens that are actually going to do it is my question.
Yeah. Someone has to take the
Just
action.
25. You,
Yeah,
a lot of citizens, when they're visiting Birchwood and having a sip or two, you might
Yeah.
get a signature. No, I'm just joking.
Yes, we're gonna vote on it.
Well, we
Well-
support,
No, we-
I think
we-
we support pretty
As
much.
a board, we're all unanimously supporting, somebody putting forth a warrant article to
That's all.
continue our group and to try to acquire some funds from the town to, you know,
In the funds that we're hoping that somebody who writes the warrant article will be assigning would be $5,000, $10,000.
But
yeah, well, but. We're thinking a forum might be 500, 700. We do the mailers to have a forum, the
I would
mailers.
say, $3,000. I wouldn't go.
Just in
post
postage.
$5,000.
And then they're about 50 cents a piece for the part.
Get the card made up.
Right,
Well,
so you're
I guess
about
better to
$1,000
have
a
it,
month.
not need it, than need it, and not have it, because we can always,
We'll give it back.
it will always go back to the town.
5,000, 5,000.
Well, it sounds, yeah. That sounds like,
yeah,
I would
I mean-
keep it, I would keep it below that.
35.
But, yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
you-
5,000 just strikes me as
Yeah.
like- When the Temple Land Use Committee
Today-
started, they asked for $3,000. So, you know, it's, I mean, so. Yeah, so-
Well, the main reason we would like money would be for the forums, because we want to do mailers.
You think that's gonna cost $5,000?
Three, so let's just say we have three.
Can we ask him, like, could we call him now?
Yes, let's find out what.
Is that $5,000?
Right.
Three grand might be enough, but we're not gonna need it, an engineer, we're not gonna need to pay an engineer. So we're just looking at just money for the forums and the mailers.
So
3,500,
3,500, I think.
3,500.
If that's our budget, we can work.
Do we want to take a vote on that? Do we agree
Yeah,
to have
we'd
the
have to.
warrant created?
Yes.
We want, I make a motion, we have the warrant that we've discussed created with the dollar amount we specified. Anybody
You
want to?
made the motion? No?
Yeah.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Yeah, I,
All opposed? Motion passes.
I just want to mention one other thing that's going to affect everything we do here, and that's if the SAU gets rid of Temple Elementary School, which there's an unbelievable drive to do that. That's going to be a massive conversation with this town. That's going to put the highway garage stuff in a different perspective.
This could all be a moot point very
Yeah,
quickly.
I mean, nobody's going to be moving the highway garage for $2 or $3 million when we're going to have to spend 25 buying
Is
that.
it nice to have this number?
well, it's what we're
Yeah,
talking-
yeah, no,
it's
I'm
what
just
we're
saying,
Yeah.
the conversation, that's why it's a good idea to continue and have discussion with forums, because there's gonna be a lot of chatter about the elementary school if they close it down. And you guys weren't at the forum we had on the school Thursday, but it's fascinating. The town does not have first right of refusal to the school.
We didn't do
Nope,
that.
we're third in line.
How did I
The,
let that happen?
it's just so, I don't know how it's built in the Articles of Agreement. A charter school has the first right to the school. And I've forgotten who the second one is, but we're third in line to buy the building and use it. And
Yeah,
so
we
it's,
don't have right of first
yeah,
refusal.
yeah,
We weren't
just-
very smart on that deal.
well, no town has it. It's not
Well,
just us.
Well, it's all
Part of the Articles of Agreement, yeah. All
Francistown,
in the,
Bennington.
in the state of New Hampshire, when they close a school, the town doesn't have the first right.
Yeah, we don't get it for $1 like we were
I think it's just, I think it's statutory. I'm not sure about that. But Anyway.
I remembered what I was gonna say. Part of the reason that we're kind of at this point is because we were given a deadline of town meeting. Now, if we had 3 years to do what we're trying to accomplish, then perhaps we would be able to go forth with a much more comprehensive report with suggestions for the options and how we've laid them out. But I think Jim was right in that we have to stick to our task, which is to present the report. We've done it in a record amount of time. We've put together a lot more information in a much shorter period of time than the TLURC presented to us. And I think as long as we are going forth, knowing that we have accomplished our goal, we can stand up and then let the people decide what they want to do next. And as Peter said, I think it's all going to be a moot point anyways, because until we find out what's going to happen with our elementary school, our highway garage is working just fine.
Chair Lady, do we want to set a date for another meeting before before we have our town meeting?
Yes.
Only because I was wondering, are we going to put that report together and are we going to be discussing it to see that we all agree with how it's going to be, how it's going to be presented and things like that? Yeah, I don't know how detailed, I don't know how detailed it has to be, but just,
the Monday before, probably, or
Let's see,
Yeah.
2 weeks from today.
the Monday before the 16th, that's the 16th, so you got.
I can envision like,
What's 16th? It's 10th.
The 12th.
10th, the 12th, yeah, the 12th.
page PowerPoint or something like that, because, you don't have these people's eyes glazed over, but it should be fairly, if you're gonna do the costs and the conclusions and the basis, well, you can do all that in about 10. And then you have a book or whatever you want, so people can read it.
Yeah, how about that?
In detail,
Printing
but-
charges to give out to the town.
That's no good for us now. We don't have any
Yeah,
money.
we just have.
what we're gonna present, I'm assuming on everybody's chair.
We'll have a handout.
Well, the end of it's, I don't know where that money's coming from. I guess we're just all
Yeah.
pitching in.
Pitching in.
Yeah.
Because we,
Yeah, we're not.
Yeah.
we
Well,
can-
it doesn't have to be a
The
full
report can-
color, anything. It can just be a
True.
brief outline of what we're
Yeah.
offering.
It's like $11.
I
Yeah.
The actual full
got
report
paper.
can just be electronic on the town website.
it's
So-
the ink, yeah, the ink.
The ink that sucks, yeah.
Somebody's ink.
But
No, Peter just had a really good point.
What's
Put it
that?
on the town website.
Mm.
You want it?
Yeah, the full report, but I think Boo's idea of putting something on a chair with a
We
brief
usually-
outline.
Yep.
This
We
is what
usually-
we, and
everybody
then,
will have
and
it on
then
the
have the
chair.
whole,
Right.
20-page final report with the pictures and that
Right.
can just be in
Put
the,
that on
on town website. and-
I think
and
it,
then
it needs to have you can have an outline, but I'd have the 4 options.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
We'll have a brief outline of the 4 options that
Yeah.
we've discovered
So I'm gonna
would
double check,
probably
but I
be
think
effective.
in my meeting minutes from before Christmas, we had the PowerPoint that was all done, that outline what we were doing.
Yeah.
It was actually sent as an agenda.
Yeah, it is an attachment.
Yeah.
It's an attachment on the minutes.
So why are you saying that it's not there? That is what we have. And then last week I sent all of the
Drawing.
drawings.
The drawings, yeah,
So they have those.
right.
So the only thing they're not going to have ever seen before are the numbers.
Well, also the total package presentation, the articulation, but in terms of documents, yeah.
The 10 minutes is fine, so anybody that cared should have already been checking their notes and just took care of that day.
So maybe prior to we, you know, even if it's just on Facebook or
just
we
the
ask,
image,
or
yeah.
yeah, you know, if you're interested in what we've been doing, check out our minutes. All of our documents are attached. You can see our PowerPoint, you can see our drawings. You know, take a minute to peruse that before you come to town meeting for our presentation.
And I'll double check. I'm 95% sure that the PowerPoint is in their possession, but it's not. Jim and I can do it.
So for years, the town report in the beginning of, in the warrant articles, it always said, it was a warrant article after the budget that said to hear the reports of agents, committees, and something else. And to report here there too. And for some reason, that was in there for years and years and years. That was the time for somebody to stand up and give their, we don't have that mechanism anymore in our report book.
But I wonder if it's required by the RSA.
So I'm gonna ask the question, because it's not too late to get that reinstituted in our warrant. For, because when are we gonna get the report? When do we do our report?
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
There's
do
no
we
spot
ask
for
to be,
us.
do we need to ask to be on the agenda to present our report?
I don't know how they,
That's interesting.
It is,
Yeah.
it is in our warrant article that we're to present a report
That's right.
at this town meeting, so.
Good point, yeah, so we should.
so I will look into that with the selectmen.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll take on that task.
okay.
Because that needs to happen by the 5th too. All this has to happen because they need
So
to print the
what
books.
did it actually
They need to
say?
get everything in.
What does it actually say, Bruce? What do you remember?
To hear the, it said Article 3 or 4, whatever article it was, and it said to hear the reports of committees, agents,
Fascinating.
act their, you know,
Whatever.
you have to look back at the town report book from 10 years ago. Yeah. Everybody always voted yes on it.
Yeah.
Matters before the court come forward and be heard, or, you know, all people with reports that have been designated come forward and you will be heard.
Yeah, it could be the energy task force, could be the, whatever committee you were on. Yeah, you come forward. Yeah. I'll follow up on that. Old, like 10 years ago?
Well, they're all sitting
Yeah,
in
it's not,
in the
this is
municipal
2011.
building, we can just grab one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be in there tomorrow morning.
Yeah. And maybe it's been longer than 10 years. I could be way off, but they were in there, it was in there for years. You remember that, right? I'm gonna-
That's there, but are you also checking to make sure that we're on the agenda?
How we were gonna be able to report, when and how we're gonna be able to report to the town, right? Exactly.
That's your act.
Yep, I'll take care of that. That's my action item. Yep.
All right, so that kind of falls under our town meeting report planning.
And I just have a silly question, because I was looking at the agenda. We did a lot of talking, and I think we mentioned a bunch of topics, because number 4 was supposed to be outline cost benefit categories for analysis. We actually had that discussion, right?
Right, no.
So we're just. That's the last topic.
Okay, so outline cost benefit categories for analysis. This feels like a Jim thing. I'm not quite sure what he was looking for here. How do you,
Well, you know, what you can do is take the 4 options.
right,
And, you know, each one has like costs associated with that, building costs. Any of the costs, and then the benefits that you get from each one of those. Right? And one of the costs is the opportunity cost, and that's what the funding, what happens, what you're missing out on using that money. Right? If you didn't do this, right, what would the cost be of not using that money?
what would the cost be of doing nothing rather than spending the money?
Yeah, that's
Versus
not-
if you spend the money, what's the benefit to spending the money?
Right, so, you know, do nothing except, you know, upgrade it, which is gonna cost some amount of money. Right? Because it's not heated and all the other stuff, it's affecting time. Right, so that's a cost in addition to the benefits of
And then-
saving all this money that you don't have to spend. But there's a cost associated with not spending that money.
Right, and that's actually covered in part of the PowerPoint or the grid that we did from Kent's discussion grid. Then Jim took that and actually did that on the PowerPoint. So, and I think, didn't you do a cost analysis? that we-
I just gave you an overview as to what that is.
I mean, that is your strong suit. And Clay, I felt like Clay, that's kind of your, a math guy, and that's kind of, I always thought that was gonna be
Yeah.
your strong points, like on the committee to nail home,
Okay.
was gonna be that part of it.
So, I mean, the benefit of putting the sand pile is get all this, extra space that you can use, right? And you sign that with some sort of dollar figure. It's like maybe it brings in $10,000 to the town because they have events there in the summertime, whatever, fairs.
Yeah.
Well,
that
and
they
that-
wouldn't do in the town.
Well, and I think that the cost, one of the costs of doing nothing is the, so-called degradation of the equipment. It's not gonna last as long. That's a cost,
Yeah,
I mean,
and,
it's a
and there's some things. that,
nebulous
that you're
one,
not
but
gonna
it's
think of,
potentially a cost.
Like if we gain, whatever it is, 20 parking spaces.
Mhm.
Right, there's no real value in that, but there's, how do you put a number on convenience?
Right.
Because that-
Well, you'd have to make an assigned assumption.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
How do you value that?
Because it's not,
Right.
it's not gonna bring money into anybody.
Oh, I don't
Probably, you put a Starbucks out there.
I mean, conceptually.
How about a Maple-
Square?
how about a Maple-
And first Friday of every month.
Yeah.
Station.
Well, I mean, the proposed move, one of their bullet points was parking, safety, pollution, parking, those are all, so parking is was one of their selling points to
Why we should
justify the
move it.
move.
Right.
And I thought by simply creating,
One of our options.
one of our options is to take the block building out and create
Parking.
20+ cars. That's a huge improvement.
Actually, a lot more.
And I think
If we
parking
move,
and safety.
if we move the sample, I noticed that you did, yeah.
Parking and
Yeah.
safety are in opposition to each other.
Yeah.
Do you want me to send you the grid and the PowerPoint again, just so you have them?
Sure.
And I send it to you, see if we're gonna do the number crunching.
I mean, how do you wanna do this? You wanna get together and
Yeah, we
banter back and forth and?
Yeah, back and forth,
Do you guys have each other's
probably.
email address?
Oh, you know what, we do on the meeting.
On the, yeah,
On the meeting.
Clay.
You have to go back to old ones because we couldn't, everything.
Well, because you have it now.
Is it right?
It's all BCC
So
now.
back in September, I had everybody's emails on me. So I will send you those two pieces of information.
Okay, so Bruce, you just, are we good with that? Outline cost benefit categories for analysis. You two guys are gonna,
Yeah, well,
okay,
actually,
okay.
Yeah.
And then town meeting, report planning, Bruce, you're gonna work on how we get on the agenda, so to speak.
Yep, how it's gonna work. Yep.
Yep, and then, I'm not sure, I think I heard at our special town meeting that things like PowerPoint presentations are frowned upon at town meeting.
They always have been,
They always
yep.
have been.
because it always turned into, it's a circus, and it's just not, it's always
We'll
been
do a
handouts,
brief
so,
outline,
yeah.
and then
Mhm.
somebody's gonna present. You think Jim is, as the chairman, should be the one that presents?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even like easels, let alone PowerPoint presentation at a town meeting. We haven't allowed big poster, it's just, we just never have done it, it's just because
Well, they had all kinds of posters.
they had them off to the side.
that one with us?
They did, I guess they did. Yeah, just as a rule and they moderators prior to me, so it's been 3 decades that that's not how Temple's done their town meeting. We haven't,
Okay,
just can turn into a circus so quick. It's, the moderator can lose control,
right,
the person being the presenter, and it's just.
okay. And usually is there a time limit on it too?
Well, presenter of a warrant article has always been 15 minutes.
15 minutes, okay.
That's it.
Mm.
Yep.
But that's for the warrant article, that's not for the.
But for a warrant article, right? And so I would imagine that Jim would get to present what we need to present. I don't think he probably needs 15 minutes, but he'll get 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking at it right there. You just talk a little bit.
Yeah, everybody's gonna have their handout stapled together with all the data.
So they don't go like.
TLURC is
Yeah.
the first one and change the name. Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's that simple, you know, that our warrant article will look something like the first one that the TLURC did for.
Why don't I come up and brief this all down, and give it back to you, so you can put numbers on this?
All the
So-
all the numbers
So
I'm
I
working
will-
on,
Something for our meeting 2 weeks from now,
Yes,
you
that
know,
we can hand out. And then figure out what to do with it.
the numbers I'm acquiring are for new buildings. And everything that goes with it, from a heating,
Right.
to a heating guy, to electrician, to garage door company, to roofers, to everything to do from the concrete up. The gray area is the dirt work. Cause Kent believes that can be done by our guys with our equipment.
Yeah.
And so that's a number that we, you know,
So they're not gonna use your numbers to do their thing?
We'll just give you category.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and the demo, the other thing was like the demo of the block building. Kent, same thing. Kent said,
Take it down
I
and
guess
look at
I
it.
probably should do, I will get some cost for dumpster containers to remove the block.
is
Cause that could
there,
be a substantial number, but Kent says he could, with the backhoe, they could take that down and put it in dumpsters in one day. So we don't have to pay a crew to come in. We have the guys to do it.
Right, yeah, so you can give a range.
I guess.
Final presentation, you can say like, you know, this is soft because, you know,
Our guys are doing it, yeah.
it's a do-it-yourself thing, you pay somebody to come and do it.
Yeah.
But even if there's a cost associated with Kent to do it. Because you're doing this time.
Well, that is true.
yes,
That
he'd
is
be on town, he'd be on the clock, so to speak.
Yeah,
So what wouldn't he be doing while he was doing that?
yeah, grading a road or,
Not graph, it's taking a little-
right.
So the next meeting's on the 12th.
February 12th,
Yeah,
same place, same time?
yeah, and then I just wanna circle back, you guys were talking about meeting for the town meeting, you mentioned 11th, well, that'll be the Monday before is the 11th. I'm looking at a calendar, because Monday, unless I'm in the wrong.
So
So
we'll
the
be able to get,
11th would be the Monday before.
we'll be able to get one more after the 12th, and then one
Yeah,
more.
we should have
So
time
is
for
that
1 or 2
three
weeks.
meetings before the town meeting, the 12th,
So what are we doing?
26th, and then March 11th.
Okay, so we get 3 more meetings,
We'll bring it up.
12, 26, and then what is it, the 11th?
March 11th.
So I will not be here.
If you're not meeting till the 12th.
The 11th of March.
Before I have the town meeting. Because I'm on vacation. Before I got this.
We can just take TLURCs and change them. Take out the word relocation. Right, anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Any old business?
Second,
No business, no business.
There's no.
all those in favor,
31.
all those in
Oh,
favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?